Attractive man holding Bible. I don't really think these guys are attractive. I mean, they're wearing these sweaters and like these very safe like suits and stuff. It's almost like he's like, who wants to wear that? It is an indication of organized religion. I'm talking about like the rebel kind of guy. Okay, let's compare this to, see, I just don't see the attraction here. Okay, this guy's actually looking attractive. Like, he's leaned back, he's wearing some fashionable shirt. You're just doing what you want. This guy maybe. All right, now let's see attractive man leaning against wall. Okay, cool. Like, these guys look pretty attractive. They're looking attractive, looking attractive. We got to remember that the industry of this whole like models and clothing and fashion, it's run by money. So the Bible says you can have only one master, so you cannot serve both God and money. Let's see, Christian man leaning against a wall. Please don't wear like a suit or something. Well, this isn't a Christian man. He doesn't look too attractive. He looks like he's overthinking something. He's got something in his head. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything that indicates that they're believers or anything. So let's go to attractive. Okay, so they have this. You cannot even see his face. Okay, this guy, let's see. He's holding a tablet. These are ones that I found that I could use for the thumbnail. Yeah, I don't have much to go for. I don't have much to go for. Hi guys and gals, this is Derek. I'm addressing the gals too because I only got like 10% of my subscribers are girls. This video is for guys and girls too. It's about how and why Christian men are the most attractive. Now, there are two types of Christian men at the same time. Just as I told before in my videos that there are two types of gospels that are interpreted, like two types of interpretations. There's one that has been existing for the past 100 years that increases church attendance and is a lot more like lenient and watered down. And then there's one that is not self-serving. There's one that is basically the real gospel. One gospel produces a Christian man that is unattractive. The other gospel produces one who is attractive. The paradigm, though, is that although I want people in my channel to turn to the gospel and know that it will improve your life, so long as you turn to the gospel for your own sake, so such as like trying to get self-improvement, trying to get more confident, all this stuff that I know it's had on my life, these effects that it's had, it's not going to work because it's all about relationship. And you can't change your heart. Only communion with the Father can change your heart because he's like heart surgeon, you know. Only he, knowing him, can bring out your created value. So a man who has his true created value brought out is super duper attractive to women. Now, let's talk about what women are attracted to, okay? Women, oddly enough, women tend to be attracted to dudes who are just marching to the beat of their own drum. And you can see women attracted to like rock stars, attracted to like criminals sometimes, because criminals are just ignoring what society tells them to do and they're just following whatever they want to do. And they're attracted to men who have a mission in life, men who have something that's greater to them and means something greater to them than women. They're attracted to men who are serving their community in a way. They're doing something with their talents that is serving the community. And that's why women say men look great in a uniform, because men wearing a uniform, it's like a symbol. Not only does it fit nicely, it's a symbol of serving your country, serving something greater than yourself. You've made a choice. It's like you've laid down your life in a way to serve something greater, right? But in the West right now, although we do have a war going on, it's a kind of a soft power war between countries, political war. We don't have an actual battle that the citizens are fighting. So we're so attracted to like all these Marvel movies and all this stuff that just feeds that, doesn't really satisfy, but it feeds that hunger for a battle, right? Unfortunately, a lot of men just leave it at that, and they don't really find like what makes them tick, or like how to really fight the battle, right? The battle of good and evil. And so the men that learn to fight the real battle of good and evil, they end up as a byproduct being very attractive. Okay, so I want to talk about the typical Christian man. Unfortunately, it's typical because we're living in the matrix right now. The gospel is watered down, and the self-centeredness of mankind has creeped into the gospel message itself. This is the thing, is like Jesus said, to be born again, right? This is to deny yourself, follow me, follow God's kingdom, which is to just love each other as yourself. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. This is your priority in life. But if you seek the kingdom and you seek God in order to secretly get something, it's like your real motivation. What is your biggest motivation in your heart? As long as that is self-centered, you're going to be, among many other negative things, but that's another topic for a different video, you're not going to be attractive. Because I've seen the kind of man in the churches. I grew up seeing it, and I see it all the time. Now, let's just give an example. Let's say there's a man who's serving in ministry. They're usually very soft-spoken. They're usually wearing nice suit, like a tie, or like dressed very nicely. But they seem to not really want to be there. The joy that they express sometimes seems fake. It's hard to see what their real personality is because they're too afraid to offend someone in the way that they talk. The reason that they're not letting loose their personality is because if they really let loose, it would give away the fact that they don't really want to be there. So I'm not trying to put anyone down, but like, it's just a clear clue that if there's something that seems off, or like people are overly polite and like you're not hearing who they really are, it's like they're always just talking so politely and soft-spoken and stuff, it's like it shows something, right? So these men that serve in ministry, some of them are trying to find their identity in ministry rather than finding their identity through truth. I've heard stories of men who thought that God told them to give up a talent or something of their passion in order to like do missions or something like this, when like the way that you live is a ministry in itself. Like if you are able to just live Christ and don't give up any of the talents that God has given you or the passions that God has given you, because we can use so many creative ways in order to bring people to know God. And like the devil's already doing that. Like look at Hollywood, or it's not very creative these days, but like look at all the music and all this stuff that the devil's using to influence people to follow a certain way. But because we have this watered down ministry, it's like we're not understanding that we can use whatever talents and gifts we have to do good in the world. And what greater good is there to help someone's soul, right? This type of Christian man is used to following orders. They're used to following what, let's say, the head pastor says. They bought into the illusion that the pastor is like a greater authority than them. It's kind of like, even though Jesus said, call no one your father because you have one Father in heaven. Like we are all children of God. There is no level, higher or lower level. I mean, sure, there's people who have different gifts and abilities. There's people who seem to know God better. There's people who have taken on the role of a pastor. And I think that's fine if you can see in their life the way that they live, if they're living Christ. Because sometimes I found like I would love to have the label of a pastor, even though I don't really believe in it, just for people to listen to me. Because sometimes people ask me for, like, they have problems, they ask me for advice and stuff, and it seems that because I'm not a pastor, they don't really take it seriously, or they just don't like what I say, or they just don't take it to heart. But I know that if they knew that I was a pastor, they would listen to it a lot more, because that's the world we live in right now. So yeah, even though the gospel says, let few of you be teachers, we're still following all these teachers, and who knows if the teachers are in it for the money or what. So the more that Christian men miss the true message of the gospel and try to serve in ministry, the more damage it's going to do, because we're basically teaching people, basically from a message of unconditional love, we're turning it into something where we either feel like we have to earn love, we have to probably find our identity through our ministry or something. And all of this comes from not knowing our true identity. All of this comes from not really understanding our created value and the love of the Father for us, and how he cares about not just our survival. He doesn't just care about our survival or our getting through the day. Like, he wants us to transcend. He cares about our hearts, like our heart's desires. Like, I grew up with feeling like nobody cared about my heart until I was born again, and I found like God cares about my heart, not just my survival, not just me getting through. He cares about my transcendence of the mediocre, of the average, of all the problems getting to me. Like, no, they don't get to me anymore. Okay, let's talk about the attractive Christian male. So I talked about earlier how men who are attractive, they're following the beat of their own drum. If you really believe in the gospel, not because somebody told it to you, but because, usually it's because you had some kind of experience. You were seeking God, and then you had some kind of revelation or experience that made you realize God is the most important thing in the world. Like, following him and your relationship with him is the most important thing in the world. You're genuinely saying what you believe and doing what you believe despite what society tells you. Now, you can do it in the path of a criminal, and you'll be attractive to some women, or you'll do it in the path of righteousness and good, and you'll be attractive to women too. I like to believe that this way attracts better women, better quality women. And again, I'm not trying to attract women, but I'm just noticing it. I'm just noticing that I follow this way, and my problem used to be, how do I reply when someone rejects me? Like, what do I do? How do I handle it? And now it's more like, how do I reject in a nice way, like when I'm not that interested? Like, that's more my situation now, like trying to understand this, right? It's a better problem to have. I think a challenge that I had was trying to understand how my relationship with an invisible God could be the most important thing to me. But as I throw off the old me, which was trained by society and trained by education, I throw off the me that was taught about living by logic, living by analytical thinking, living by scientific thinking, pretending to know all this stuff, and I learn a higher wisdom, which is a wisdom of humility, like Aristotle, who said, all that I know is that I know nothing, right? If you live by the wisdom of the Bible, then everything you see around you, you will see that it came from the earth, which is God's creation. Even a tree, you can see like how it's made and how it has life in it. It's like it's all a design by the Father. And that's so much more exciting view, right? So the way that we see life is the way that life is. It's like, so the Bible says, the eye is a lamp to the body. And when the eye is good, the whole body will be good. So it's like when our perception is good of life, then our whole body will be good. And when we're able to live in a spiritual way where we see the spiritual world around us and what it all means and how it all links back to God, we can understand how God is more close to us than any human can ever be. Like, he's like living in our heart. This relationship is the most important thing. And so when I am having a really pure motive in my heart, when I know that my heart is in the right place and it's not living from a place of selfishness and it's living from a place of laying down my life to follow God's kingdom, everything gets like into place, because we were never meant to live for us, right? We were meant to live for the kingdom. We're meant to live for his name. And it sounds bad because we grew up in America with this like, my rights, it's my life. It's like, no, it was never your life. It's always God in you, right? But it's ironic. It's like, it's a step of faith, and it's a paradigm. As Jesus said, he who wishes to lose his life will save it, and he who wishes to save his life will lose it. The more that I choose to lose my life, the more that I let go, and this is also in accordance with teachings of the law of attraction, right? It's just his nature, it's just his law. When you let go of things that don't that are not supposed to matter more than him, you receive those things. So laying down my life for the gospel is like living in a way where I'm focused on loving the world, I'm focused on changing the world, I'm focused on investing my time and my energy because I genuinely want to, because I genuinely think that what I do is going to help someone out there. It's going to help them to clear up misunderstandings of the gospel, of who God is, and all this stuff that we have floating around. So the more that a man really gets to know God, that's the only way that he will transform his heart and genuinely want to follow God and maybe be ministering in so many ways, like even the way like we think of ministries, like, okay, put on a tie, go to your church, collect the tithes, maybe go on a mission. It's like, okay, that's one way if you really want to do that. If you're good at like people talking to people on the street, then go do that. But maybe you're good at art. Okay, paint something that's going to touch someone's heart and have it be something that you really believe in, which is hopefully you believe in the ultimate truth. Hopefully you found the truth, right? There's so many ways of ministering. There's so many ways of following God, using your talents, using what makes you excited. And because you know he cares about you, your heart, it makes you excited to live in his way. And I've lived in ways where, like, yeah, I was following what was exciting to me, but deep down, my motive was like just to show people how good I am, to show how people, because I made like a movie and I was like trying to show how well my script writing skill is, and like how good of a director I am. People, they're gonna say I'm a genius, yay. And like it didn't satisfy me at all. Even when people commend me, I feel kind of like I can't really know how to accept it. So when I learned to like actually live for something that I really believe in, it helped me to let go of idols. It helped me to let go of things that I didn't really care about. And it helped me to see the limitations of hobbies or works or anything that I used to find identity in. Finding my identity in God is the only thing that satisfies the infinity of my heart. And it becomes the only thing that makes me excited like the most, you know. It can't compare. This life can't compare anymore. So it's like these two men, the one that doesn't really understand the gospel, who is following for selfish motives, versus the one that has had a revelation or understands it somehow by some way that God touched them and is following it out of genuine passion. This man is more attractive. This man's having more fun. This man's having a blast. And he understands that the more of a good time that he has, the more fun that he has living in this way, worry-free, as Jesus said, not worrying about tomorrow, as Jesus said, the more attractive he's going to be. God sees you for your best self. He wants you to reach your created potential, your created value. The highest created value, I don't care, there's nothing you can argue that'll convince me otherwise. There is no argument against this. Our highest state that we can be in is love. It's a loving state. The only way that we can reach that state is by knowing God. I'll tell you why. If you search for any other way to reach that state, you'll never have the idea of what unconditional love feels like, because God is the one that has unconditional love. Jesus is the only one who walked in unconditional love. You're receiving that unconditional love. It's teaching you. It's like a heart surgery that God is doing, that God longs to do. So if any Christian men out there feel that they're not attractive deep down, or if they feel like a little bit of shame when they talk about God or the gospel or anything like this, I think the best thing you can do. So I used to have this impure motive, and I was 7 years in this situation. I wrote about this in my book, where I was seeking God a lot. I'm like, okay, that's checked, right? And I could, because I was seeking God a lot, because I was reading the Bible and I knew scripture, I could justify the way that I was living, which was very like solitary, and it was like I wanted something from God. So I was living in this way that was very strict, very religious. And as I said in the beginning of the video, the paradigm is that if you become a Christian for your sake, it's not really going to be a good time. It's not really going to work, right? What advice I would give for if you're a man, a Christian man who doesn't feel attractive, is to simply examine your heart, examine your motives for whatever you do in your Christian life, when you pray to God, when you serve in ministry, whatever you do, examine your motive, your deep motive. And you may be so used to living in it where you have an identity and you think like there's nothing wrong, you think like your motive's pure. But God sees our hearts, He sees our motives. And that's the most important change that I made in my life, is like, what is my real motive? Is it a selfish one? If it's a selfish one, that's representing the old you. That's representing the you that needs to die, right? And it's a leap of faith, but you step into God's kingdom, having God's kingdom be your motive and your reason for waking up, your life. That's giving yourself to God. Then everything becomes clear. Then you see clearly and you let go of all these fears and all these unneeded neediness, and like you feel filled with love already. You lose your neediness. Neediness is so unattractive. You lose your feeling like you need to prove yourself through this. You need to find your identity through ministry or through this and that. Like, no, everything's done. The work is all done. Everything that you do is out of passion and out of compassion for your love for your brothers and sisters around you. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you have questions too. I would love to have like an email. If anybody has a question, they want me to answer it or something like that, I'd make a video about it. Thanks for watching and have a good one.